And we're here with our first edition of The Future of Work, You in 2042. And I'm delighted to have my first guest on board who's going to tell us a little bit about himself from his perspective. Interesting because him in 2042 may actually be able to make a difference on the world. Let me introduce you to Quentin Smith. Quentin, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I live in Toronto, Canada. My name is Quentin, like she said. I like to build things out of Lego, play games on iPads, do things on iPads, type, do Duolingo. Yeah.
That's great. Now, one thing you may have noticed, which you may be intrigued upon hearing about Quentin, is perhaps his age. Quentin, tell me how old you are.
I'm 10.
Well, that's pretty cool. So him in 2042, again, we can have someone that might be in the work world. And I wonder what's going to shape that work world. An interesting, challenging time in 2020 for someone who's 10. Quentin, I understand you had virtual classes this year. What was that like?
The virtual classes I like. I like doing the virtual classes because I learned some coding.
Coding?
Yes, and I made some games. What I didn't like about them is sometimes when they're scheduled. Sometimes there's hard scheduling.
Hard scheduling? Like they're at a set time or what?
They're at a set time, which could be sometimes annoying.
Oh, that's interesting. So would you prefer something that was done at your own pace instead of that set class time?
Maybe not, because it is good if you have a set time, because then if you don't have a set time, some people might show up to one meeting, and the next meeting no one will show up.
That's true. At least it's interesting having, in the adult world we call that, the training world we call that a virtual class. So it sounds like you had a virtual instructor and there's a virtual class, which made you show up. But what I'm hearing you didn't like so much about that is it interfered with your life. Like you actually have other things to do as well.
Yeah.
And what were you taking in that virtual class?
I'm doing a podcasting one right now, strange enough. But I also have done a coding one.
Well, that's cool. So those do you think useful things for the future, like being able to code and stuff like that?
Being able to code would be very useful in the future in case you need to make code for computers or websites.
That's pretty cool. That's actually neat to think that seems like the way you talk about it, seems like it's a very basic skill that, of course, every 10-year-old should have. Interesting to see how that plays out in 2042 when everybody grows up already knowing to code since and by 10 they can do some pretty cool things. What can you do as a 10-year-old by coding?
I made a Space Invaders game. I was doing this thing for robots to get it to move. I've also learned how to do some very simple things like make this virtual bomb blow up.
That's pretty cool. I have to admit, I could not do that when I was 10. And I also understand you had school as well that was virtual this year, which is a definite change. I don't think anybody else out there ever had all their school being virtual right now en masse. What was that like with your regular schoolwork?
It was a bit different because we were doing a lot of things. Instead of doing it on paper, we were doing everything on Google Docs and Google Slides.
So you seem to be able to use Google materials now? Yes. Google Slides, Docs?
Classroom forums, yeah.
Cool. Again, I think you know more than me. And when I was 10, I certainly couldn't do that. So this is just like a basic skill? Of course, grade 5s know how to use Google Classroom, yeah?
Most people in my school know how to use Google Classroom.
There we go. So interesting. We've got this future world of work where everybody already, at age 10 knows how to program. Everybody knows how to code. They can make games. They can make robots. They can use the whole Google Suite seamlessly. And interesting to see how that may play out in the future when you are 32. This is a very insightful episode of You in 2042. And I'm delighted to have with me my first guest, Quinton Smith. Thank you so much, Quinton.
Welcome.
Bye now.